very thoughtful, he's loyal, and he tries to be true to himself and to his people.
Phil Fontaine is a strong, traditional, and a very gentle man.
The mistreatment of Canada's Aboriginal peoples is not a historical artifact. It's a contemporary reality, one that betrays our values as a nation. Now, fortunately, the attitudes which led to that are beginning to change. Very slowly, but they are beginning to change. And one of the main reasons for that has been Phil Fontaine.
There are two great differences between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal politics. One, when you get to the level that Phil's at, you're not removed from the everyday crisis and kind of issues that are going on in our communities. So that is so much more draining on an Aboriginal national leader. The other thing is you put years and years and years into wanting to make a difference in your communities and putting yourself out, and in the end, there's no compensation, there's no pension plan, there's nothing that supports you when you leave that position. He never wanted to do it for any compensation. I don't think he ever wanted to do it for any recognition. He wanted to ensure that he laid some groundwork to turn that corner and make it better for every individual in our community across the country.
He and I worked together to really negotiate the final arrangements for the residential school settlement agreement. Subsequent to that, later on, we actually worked together, again, negotiating the final arrangements for what Canada's land claim court would look like, something that we've been working on in this country really since the days of Diefenbaker. At one point, we had to separate ourselves from our advisors and lawyers, and Phil and I locked ourselves behind closed doors, and amidst a lot of noise and some sounds that sounded a lot like breaking of furniture, we were able to actually work out a settlement there that has stood the test of time. Phil is the kind of person who always gets to the end. He knows how to work with ministers. He knows the responsibility that he carried on behalf of Canada's Aboriginal people.
I was National Chief. Phil became the Vice Chief for Manitoba. I guess it was the spring 1990, I think. And we were having an early assembly. And Phil brought up the incident of what had happened to him in the Indian residential schools. And it was actually the first time that a national Aboriginal leader had actually come forth and talked about being abused. And it actually allowed people to start speaking about it. So years later, when Phil was National Chief, and of all the things he could tackle, that was something he decided he was going to deal with.
Well, I was in the House at the time of the apology. I think it was one of the most moving moments in the history of Parliament. You could see that as Phil's reaction. I think there were a lot of tears on everybody's part. I know Phil as a survivor of the residential school era. I know how much it meant to him.
When the Prime Minister and the leaders of Parliament offered that apology, they were speaking to my father, my grandmother. They were speaking to Phil and saying what happened to him was wrong. It should have never happened. That moment was something that it occurred because, largely because of Phil's leadership. And now it's our responsibility to step into the space that was created through that very important work and that moment, and work towards the reconciliation that it promises.
For Phil Fontaine, reconciliation has a very wide definition. It isn't only reconciliation for the First Peoples of this country, it's reconciliation for all Canadians, so that we know our history, so that we know what happened, and so that we are prepared to deal with it openly and transparently. Canada can only be as strong as it understands where it has been. And if some of that is not very pretty, then we'd better understand it so that it doesn't happen again. Phil Fontaine has always understood that.
You know, I really would like to say that that's Phil's finest hour, that signing the residential school agreement was his finest hour, but I don't know that that was. I don't think he puts that in his mind any higher than anything else he's done, whether it's women's issues, whether it's health, whether it's education, whether it's social condition. The Declaration of Indigenous Rights. I think that everything that he's put into moving forward the issues for Aboriginal people are his finest hours.
Strong First Nations will indeed make a stronger country and a stronger Canada. And that's Phil's legacy. It's a huge honor to step into Phil's shoes and pick up this work. Phil, or as I've always known you, National Chief, Boss, I want to thank you for the incredible contribution you've made to our people, the incredible contribution you've made to a new era of reconciliation. I, as one of many young leaders across this country, accept the responsibilities to continue this important work. Let go, let go. Thank you so much.